You thought something was wrong with you, because no one ever told you that healing feels like unraveling, that the cocoon must break before anything with wings can exist. There's a silence that comes with awakening, not the peaceful kind, but the eerie quiet that follows after the storm, when the debris hasn't settled and you're still not sure whether the sky is safe again. You are standing in that silence. You've tried to name it depression, but labels have edges, and what you're going through has none. It's not just sadness, it's not just tiredness, it's the collapse of something ancient inside you, something that no longer wants to pretend. Carl Jung called it the night sea journey, a descent not into hell, but into the deep, black ocean of the self, where no map can guide you, and the only compass you have is the ache that never leaves. You stopped wanting to be fixed, because now, all you want is to be real. There's a difference between surviving and living, and you've begun to see it, in the hollow of your daily routines, in the numbness that follows praise, in the quiet revolt of your body when it's asked to play along with lies. You are unraveling, yes, but you're not falling apart. You are falling inward. This is not the end. This is the dark womb of becoming. It feels like death, because all births do. The ego doesn't die quietly. It screams, it bargains, it clings, it tries to seduce you back into old performances, those familiar roles that earned you love at the cost of your soul. But this time, you're not going back. You can't. Even if you tried, the door is no longer there. You're not who you were, and pretending to be would be a spiritual violence. So now, in this silence, you must learn to trust something wordless, something older than logic, something sacred that stirs only when everything else has gone quiet. Jung knew this space well. He didn't conquer it. He made a home in it. He let madness speak. He let symbols breathe. He let the archetypes of his soul step forward, not as enemies, but as forgotten guides. You've met them too, haven't you? The child who cries when you're alone, the shadow who whispers doubts you tried to drown, the mother who never held you, the mirror that never reflected who you truly were. They aren't punishments, they're invitations. This is not a breakdown. It's a breakthrough in disguise, but only if you stay, only if you stop resisting the pull into yourself, only if you stop treating silence as a void to escape and begin to treat it as a sanctuary. Because somewhere deep inside, beneath the noise of your thoughts, beneath the rubble of your persona, there is a voice, and it's been waiting. Waiting for you to stop performing. Waiting for you to stop achieving. Waiting for you to finally listen. It doesn't speak in language. It speaks in feeling, in knowing, in resonance. You'll know it when you feel that quiet tear roll down your cheek. The one that has no name, no trigger, no explanation. That tear is your soul saying, "You found me." And it's been there the whole time. Not outside you, not above you, within, always within. You're not healing to become someone new. You're healing to return to who you've always been, before the world told you to be someone else. The Red Book wasn't about solutions. It was about surrender. Jung didn't emerge from his descent with answers. He emerged with a deeper question. Who am I without the mask? And now it's your turn to ask, and your turn to wait, and your turn to listen, not for a voice from the heavens, but for the one that rises from the depths, not the self that seeks approval, but the self that remembers freedom. This isn't depression, it's the grief of disillusionment, the mourning of illusions you outgrew, the death of identities that never truly fit. You are not malfunctioning, you are maturing. You are not weak. You are being rewired from the inside out. You are not stuck. You are standing at the threshold of your own soul, terrified and trembling, and that is holy. So be still, not because you've given up, but because you're finally ready to begin. Let the silence deepen. Let the darkness teach. Let your old self break, so your real self can breathe. You are not depressed. You are remembering the truth. And the truth is, you are already whole. You're learning to sit with things you were always taught to run from. The ache that sits in your chest every morning, you no longer numb it. You watch it. You trace its edges with your breath, like a cartographer of your own suffering. And in doing so, you start to see, it isn't just pain, it's memory. It's the shape of what was abandoned to keep you acceptable. The child within you, not metaphorical, but real, is still waiting to be seen. Not fixed, not improved, just seen. Do you remember when you first felt the need to be better than you were? When being yourself wasn't enough, so you put on a smile that didn't reach your eyes? That moment didn't end. It became you. But now the shell is cracking. The smile won't stick anymore. You try to care, but your body revolts. Your soul yawns at the falseness. It refuses to animate the lie. Jung didn't climb his way out of the dark. He didn't fill it with affirmations or force it into submission. He laid down inside it. He let it speak in symbols. And slowly, he realized the dark wasn't empty. It was full. Full of all the parts of himself he had denied for decades. You're beginning to understand this too, that your silence is not the absence of a voice, but the presence of too many unheard voices, each one a version of you, cast aside, forgotten, ignored, the version that wanted to rest, the version that said no, the version that didn't want to be strong all the time, the version that didn't want to save everyone. They're still here, not to haunt you, but to come home. You're not unraveling because you're failing. You're unraveling because you've reached the edge of your false self, and there's nothing left to cling to. And that's grace. It doesn't feel like grace. It feels like falling. But in this falling, you finally let go of the illusion of control. And when you do, something unexpected happens. You land, not on the ground, but in yourself. You begin to feel things again. Not just pain, but texture, wind on your skin, the way your chest tightens when a song hits you right, the sudden sting of tears when you didn't even know you were grieving. You've been told healing is a staircase. You go up, 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 but the red book says otherwise. Healing is a labyrinth. You go in, and the only way out is deeper, and in that depth, you find archetypes. Jung saw the inner world not as chaos, but as a forgotten city, populated by symbolic figures who hold the keys to your return. The wise old man, the divine child, the shadow, the anima and animus. These aren't just concepts, they are living energies within you, and each one, when ignored, becomes your depression, your anxiety, your fatigue, your compulsions. Not because you're broken, but because they are knocking, asking to be let in, asking to be integrated. This is what shadow work is, not fighting darkness, but making space for it to speak. You're not healing to become light, you're healing to become whole. The world doesn't need more light workers who avoid their pain. It needs soul workers, those who descend, who enter the ruins of their psyche, torch in hand, and say, "Show me what I left behind." Because what you left behind is often what you most need now. That rage you were taught to suppress, it's your fire. That sadness you were told to hide, it's your compassion. That fear you buried, it's your intuition. You're not just awakening, you're remembering. Remembering that the soul doesn't speak in goals or metrics or productivity. It speaks in symbols, in moods, in dreams, in symptoms. What you call not feeling like yourself is often just the real you tapping on the glass of your performance. And when the glass finally cracks, when the masks finally slip, you feel lost. But you're not lost. You're being reintroduced to what is real. Let the false fall away. Let the ache guide you in. Let the tears cleanse what words never could. Let the silence stretch until something ancient fills it. You are not a self-improvement project. You are a soul, learning to trust itself again. Jung didn't ask people to become better. He asked them to become real. And realness is messy, raw, stripped of polish, full of contradictions. But it's alive, and that's all your soul ever wanted. And when you finally stop performing, when no one's watching and there's nothing left to prove, you begin to hear the quiet rhythm of who you've always been, beating beneath the noise, beneath the grief, beneath every mask you wore to survive. It doesn't shout, it doesn't rush, it doesn't beg to be understood. It waits, like a fire that never went out, just buried under layers of ash, waiting for your breath to reignite it. You wonder, What happens now? Now that the applause no longer soothes you, now that the people you once impressed don't recognize you, now that you can't even recognize yourself. This is the void they never warned you about, the sacred emptiness between stories, between the character you played and the self that's still taking form. It's uncomfortable, lonely, still, but it's not punishment. It's preparation, because something is being written in the silence you've begun to allow, not by your mind, but by something older, wiser, quieter, the same voice that whispered to Jung through myth and madness. You are not supposed to feel like yourself right now, because yourself was a set of adaptations, an arrangement of reflexes designed to keep you accepted, not alive. And now that you've stopped performing aliveness, you're beginning to feel it. Raw, unfiltered, uncompromised. At first, it will feel foreign, like wearing someone else's skin, because you've lived so long in exile from your own center. But slowly, something begins to shift. Your choices get quieter, but they carry more weight. You say less, but mean every word. You leave rooms that used to imprison you, not with drama, but with dignity. You notice which conversations leave you hollow and which ones fill you without a single sentence. This isn't the self the world applauds. It's the one that doesn't need applause. The Red Book wasn't about building a better personality. It was about dissolving the false self so the soul could return to its rightful place, not as an idea, but as a compass. Jung descended into chaos so he could find order not on the outside, but within. And now, so are you. You're no longer asking, "What's wrong with me?" You're asking, "What's no longer true?" You're not seeking to escape the darkness. You're letting your eyes adjust to it. And as they do, you begin to see. You were never lost. You were just hidden. Behind expectations, behind roles. Behind pain that wasn't yours to carry. You see now the grief was sacred. The silence was sacred. Even the numbness, a message. Because your soul doesn't shout, it withdraws. It dims the lights until you can no longer pretend to see. And only then, in that blind groping through the void, do you start to touch what's real. Not the accolades, not the identity, not the promises of a culture built on speed and spectacle, but the steady pulse of being, the quiet center, the knowing that needs no proof. You begin to remember your own rhythm, one not dictated by urgency, but by truth. You start doing less, but living more. You stop running from solitude and start treating it like an altar. You no longer chase meaning, you create it by being fully here. And this is the moment when you begin to understand. You were never broken. You were breaking open. Everything that fell apart was meant to. Not to hurt you, but to reveal you. The you that remains when everything else is stripped away. The you that doesn't shift with approval. The you that remembers silence is not empty. It's full of the answers you weren't ready to hear. Until now. So let it keep unfolding. Let the ache stay open. Let the questions remain unanswered. You're not here to solve yourself. You're here to hold yourself with the kind of tenderness you always gave away but never received. This is not depression. This is the reclamation of your soul. And now that you've stopped trying to go back to who you were, back to how things used to feel, back to the person that made everyone comfortable but yourself, you're starting to notice something subtle, almost imperceptible. A new self isn't arriving like thunder. It's blooming like a bruise. Slow, quiet, sensitive to the touch, but undeniably there. You catch glimpses of it in the way you say no without explaining. In the way you choose rest over proving. In the way you stop apologizing for taking up space. It's not confidence, not yet. It's something deeper, a kind of honesty that doesn't need to be loud. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But he never said it would feel good at first. Because truth is rarely gentle when it returns after exile. You've been domesticated by survival. Taught to measure your worth by how small you can make yourself to fit into spaces that never deserved you. But now, your soul has outgrown its cage, and the ache you feel, the restlessness, the detachment, the existential fatigue is not dysfunction, It's dilation. It's your inner world expanding beyond the roles you were forced to inherit. This is what they don't tell you about awakening, that it's messy, lonely, unmarketable, that there will be days when you miss your own numbness, because feeling again means grieving everything you once silenced, and grief doesn't move in a straight line. One moment, you're grounded. The next, you're undone by a song, a memory, a look in someone's eyes that reminds you of the person you used to pretend to be. But through it all, you stay. You don't abandon yourself just because it hurts. That's the revolution. You are learning the art of staying. Staying with the sadness, staying with the silence, staying with the messy, unpolished truth that lives in your belly and refuses to be tamed. And the more you stay, the more you see. You see how much of your life was a performance choreographed by fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being too much, fear of being not enough. You see how often you abandoned yourself to be accepted by people who never saw you clearly in the first place. You see how long you've been holding your breath just to keep the peace. And finally, you exhale. Not because it's all okay, but because you are. And that's enough now. Jung's descent into the Red Book wasn't just for him. It was a blueprint for all of us who would one day reach the edge of our own illusion and dare to walk off it. He followed the symbols. He sat with the madness. He gave voice to the parts of him that Western psychology had no name for. And in doing so, he found his soul again. You're doing the same. Not by reading his words, but by living your own. By writing your own Red Book, not on paper, but in the way you wake up every day and choose presence over performance, truth over comfort, depth over approval. And yes, you will lose people, but you will find yourself, and that's a fair trade. You will lose certainty, but you will gain clarity, and that's a rare gift. You will lose the illusion that healing is linear, but you will gain the unshakable knowing that you are never alone in the dark. The moment you chose to stop running, you joined a lineage of souls who chose silence over spectacle, solitude over sedation, and shadow over self-deception. That is sacred work. You're not here to fix the world's expectations of you. You're here to dissolve the version of yourself that believed them. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be whole. And sometimes wholeness looks like loneliness. Sometimes it looks like walking away. Sometimes it looks like doing nothing, while the world spins itself dizzy trying to outrun its own truth. But you've chosen a different path. The path inward, the one that doesn't make sense from the outside, but feels like home on the inside. You don't have a destination, you have a direction. And that's enough. Because every step you take towards your soul, the fog clears a little, the weight lifts a little, the silence softens. And for the first time in a long time, you don't need to be anyone else. You're not afraid of the dark anymore. Because you've learned, you are the light. Not a blinding performative light, but a steady, quiet glow that knows exactly where it came from and no longer needs to prove it to anyone. You are not depressed. You are becoming. And this time, it's not for anyone else. This time, it's for you. And now at the edge of everything you thought you are not collapsing, you are shedding. The heaviness in your chest is not despair, it's density leaving your body. It's the echo of what no longer belongs, reverberating as it exits your nervous system. This is the peace they never described. Not bliss, not elation, but peace like an old friend returning, unannounced, unexpected, and unmistakable. It moves slowly, as if testing whether you're truly ready. And this time, you are. You've sat in the fire long enough to know that what burns off was never really you. You've walked the halls of your own grief, opened the doors you once locked, spoken to the ghosts, listened to their stories, and reclaimed every piece of yourself you once abandoned for approval. You're no longer rushing to be healed. You're letting healing happen in its own strange rhythm. Because you've learned, it's not a task, it's a homecoming. There's a new way you carry yourself now. Not with arrogance, but with rootedness. You walk slower, You speak with pauses. You look people in the eye, not to impress, but to see and be seen. You say no, and it feels like saying yes to something greater. You're learning the sacredness of stillness, the medicine in solitude, the honesty in not having answers. Jung walked through madness not to conquer it, but to meet the parts of himself the world had no name for. And now so have you. This isn't enlightenment as they sell it. This isn't eternal calm or cosmic certainty. This is awakening. And awakening is raw, alive, intimate. It asks everything from you and gives back only what is true. You no longer chase happiness. You embody truth. And sometimes that truth is silent, heavy, grief-stricken, but it's yours. And there's nothing more sacred than that. You realize now, it was never about finding yourself. It was about remembering what you were before the world forgot you. You were never broken, just buried, beneath expectations, beneath survival strategies, beneath the noise of a culture terrified of the quiet. And now that you've made peace with the quiet, you hear life again, not the loud, dazzling kind, but the subtle thrum of real presence. In the way sunlight touches a windowsill, in the way your body softens when you speak your truth, in the way you no longer shrink when someone doesn't understand you. This is the return, not to who you were, but to who you always been beneath the ache. Carl Jung knew this path wasn't for the faint. He knew that descent would cost everything you thought was important. But he also knew that what's born in that darkness can never be taken away. You carry that now, not as theory, not as concept, but as lived truth. You are not depressed, you are initiated, you are not lost, you are realigning, you are not broken, you are shedding the layers that kept you small. And from this place, you no longer chase the light. You are the light because you faced the dark. So now what? You live. Not perfectly, not painlessly, but wholly. You rise, not to be seen, but because your soul has waited long enough. You speak, not to convince, but to liberate your own voice. You walk, not toward anyone else's definition of success, but into your own sacred path, whatever shape it takes. This is the return, not the ending, but the beginning of a life not built on image but on soul. And the next time someone asks you, what happened to you, you'll smile. Not because you owe them an answer, but because you finally have one. You remembered who you are, you met yourself in the storm, and you stayed. You listened when everything was silent. You chose truth when performance would have been easier. You let go of what was killing you to grow what could hold you. And now, when the world pulls at you again, to be smaller, to be faster, to be pleasing, to be anyone but who you are, you'll close your eyes, take a breath, and whisper, I don't live there anymore. Because you don't. Because you can't. Not after what you've seen. Not after what you've felt. Not after what you've become. Carl Jung said, we meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life. But now, you don't need the disguise. You don't need the mask. You don't need the applause. You don't even need the explanation. You have silence. You have soul. You have the sacred fire you walked through and came out carrying. And that fire, that's yours now. Let it light the rest of your life.